All right, welcome everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining me today in the Atera walkthrough of the IT department as presented to you by your customer success team. My name is Aaron. I'm a team leader here in the customer success team at Atera, and I'm also joined on the line by my colleague, a senior customer success manager, Jan, who will be helping us during the Q&A portion of today's webinar. So first thing I want to do is just go over the agenda really quickly. We have a lot of material to cover, and I'm going to try and get it all in the short time that we have here together. First, we'll go over a brief introduction. Following that, we'll jump into basic configuration, agents, setting up a site, ticketing, as well as reporting. After that, we'll hop into a brief Q&A, and you have a little Q&A section there at the bottom of your chat that you should be able to ask questions in. We ask that you refrain from putting questions in the comments. That way we can see them all and access them all easily. After the first Q&A session, we'll jump back in and do a deeper dive into the RMM, remote monitoring, patch management, remote connection, admin, as well as reporting. And then we'll go into the final Q&A section. So a little background on Atera. The company was started back in 2011. We're utilizing IoT, Internet of Things, cloud technology, artificial intelligence, as well as big data technology that all resulted in a single code-based RMM and PSA or ticketing platform. We have over 11,000 customers spread across the world and over 100 different countries, and you are supported today by our offices in Europe as well as in the US. You can, of course, check out reviews of the Atera platform on these sites here, as well as PeerSpot and other sites in order to get feedback and hear what other users are having to say about our platform. And other than that, just a little bit about the platform itself. I'd say we release new versions every few weeks that include new features. Along those lines, your feedback is critical to us. We have a section called the user voice where you can give your feedback if you have new suggestions or upvote existing ideas that are also brought forth by the Atera community, and as well as our community forums like on Facebook. And of course, I'll talk about all of those a little bit later on. But with your permission, I'm going to shut off my video and hop right into demonstrating the platform. Oops. All right. So if any of you haven't seen it already, this is the Atera dashboard. This is kind of the home page where you can see at a quick glance any tickets that you might have open, any alerts that are available, warning, critical, as well as other information like satisfaction ratings, or kind of give you a summary of critical and overdue tickets. Anything along these lines. This is, of course, highly configurable. You can just go right up here in the edit layout section, and then you can turn on and off alerts and, of course, sort them in whatever way you'd like to see them that suits you best. But how do we get started? I think the first thing that we're going to want to do as an internal IT department is to create a new site. So over here on the left-hand side, you see that we have the option for sites. We'll go ahead and click on that. We have a few demo sites already created, but we're going to create a new site as if there was nothing there, like when you received the platform yourself. So we'll go ahead and click on New Site. We can go ahead and plug in the name of the site that we'd like. In our case, we're going to do Atera CS. You can put in any information that you'd like, phone number, address. If you want to choose the country that they're located in, you can do that as well. Any of these details. Once you click the Create button, you'll see that a new site has been created. Here you see the name of the site, Atera CS. You have additional notes that you can add here, as well as a SLA, service level agreement, that we'll discuss in a second. Any of the site information that we plugged in the previous page. There's a link to their website, you can do that. And up here we have all of this wonderful information, which is going to give us information on our users, which of course we have none at the moment because we just created a new site. Any devices that we have agents installed on that we're currently monitoring, any open tickets, alerts that may have popped up that are associated to those devices, which of course you're going to see none again. You can also store passwords in here as well for the different users. You can just go ahead and you have a little password manager built in, put in a description, what type of target it is, which site we want it to be connected to. In this case, we're doing it within the Atera CS site, and any other relevant information that you'd like to plug in. And lastly, we have an attachment section in case there are any files or records that you need to be able to add to this site. With that said, I think the first thing that we're going to want to do, and it's particularly advantageous to us in the IT department version of the platform, is to import our users. So as opposed to just creating our users one by one, we're going to go ahead and click on the little arrow here up at the top. Remember, we're still in the Atera CS site, and we're going to import from Azure Active Directory. We'll just go ahead and click on that. We'll click Sync Now. Here you can choose if it's an office or a department with which you'd like to import. On the left-hand side here, you have the information provided to you by Azure AD, and here you're going to attach it to the relevant Atera site. Very similarly, this was for a department. If we want to look at the office level, same thing. We can just choose the information from Azure, connect it to the relevant site. We'll do it to the one we just created. Click Next. Then you can choose if they're a member or a guest. Import the list. You see it shows at the bottom, nice, importing from Azure Active Directory has begun. And already when I go ahead and click into the site, you can see that all of my users have been uploaded. So this is a wonderful and easy way of importing all of the users. And the next thing that we're going to want to do is discuss installing an agent and putting a device onto the platform. There's a number of ways to do this. We're currently still inside of the Atera CS site, and here you have a number of options for installing an agent. You can either click on this big pink button right here to install an agent, or what you'll always have available to you at the top of the page is both from this drop down, you have the ability to add an agent, as well as consistently sitting up here at the top, install an agent. To install an agent, you're of course going to want to first choose if it's a Windows or a Mac device that you're going to be monitoring. We can go to the next page and we can assign it to the relevant site. We'll choose Atera CS. And then we have three different options in order to get the agent to the end user. You can either download the agent and send it to them directly. You can choose the other options and you can choose to install via the command prompt. Or you can share this URL with the end user and then they can go and easily download the agent and install it themselves. I'm going to cancel out of this though, because we already have devices that we're going to be able to look at. For example, if I were to go into this site, the Atera USA site, you'll see that we've already got 2 devices added under here with a bunch of information that's useful, critical warnings, availability, as well as management options. And another section in which you can see your devices, and this way you can see all of your devices, is to go ahead and click onto devices. And here you see the 4 devices that we've actually already attached to this demo account. And of course, you have the option, like on most pages where you have these types of lists, to filter through and choose if you want to choose devices that are only online, for example. You'll go ahead and filter those. And that way you can easily manage the devices that you're seeing in this menu. Additional items that we're seeing on this page, we'll take this notebook, for example. We can see that it's connected to the Atera USA site, as well as the last login. You can see availability. You can see any pending alerts that already exist with this device, 1 hardware, 1 performance here, as well as 3 informative. If there are available patches, they'll show up here. And here you have options for remoting into the device. Now on the base package, Splashtop is included. And you can, of course, just click right here and choose to connect to a device, and it's going to start up the Splashtop for RMM in order to be able to log in and see that device. But on our higher 2 platforms, you also have the option of AnyDesk available to you included with your license as well. Now, if you already came with a TeamViewer license or a Screen Connect license, you can also implement those, and then you can remote into the devices directly from this area. At the moment, we have Splashtop set as our default to connect to. Later on, I'll show you how you can actually change that to AnyDesk to be the default if that's what you choose to use. Beyond that, you have a number of other options that are available for managing the endpoint. You can do patch management. You can run software inventory where you'll quickly be able to see all the software that's installed with the device. If you have the option, you can even uninstall from here if it's available. You can run a script, you can pull up the service manager or the task manager, you can pull up the command prompt, PowerShell, gather user activity and specifically login activity as well. If you're using any of our add-ons such as WebRoot, from here you can install WebRoot, update it, scan, or uninstall. And we have additional tools as well, such as the help desk agent, which your users can use in order to contact you very easily from their desktop. This can be activated or deactivated, file transfer, event viewer, restart, shut down, or log out of the end device. And you can also start a chat directly with the end user as well. And I'd like to show you too, really quickly. I'd remoted into that device, as you may have noticed when I clicked on the button originally. And we talked about how your users can open up a ticket with you. So here you'll notice the Atera icon. This is on the end user's desktop. They can right click on this. And from here, they can simply create a new ticket or start a chat with you if you have that active already. Let's just hop into this device real quick and see a little bit more about the information that we're able to gather. So of course, you can get all the details of the device itself, the name of the machine, the IP address, when the device was added, when it was last seen, what site it's connected to. We can scroll down a little bit. We can get additional software information like the OS edition and the OS build. You can also see what type of security is installed on this device. In this case, 2 AVs are available. You can add a custom note to the field if you'd like. You can get information on the hardware itself, vendor, model, things of that nature. You can also get battery information, which is available to you, as well as disk information. On the right-hand side of this devices page, you can also see alerts that are being popped up by this device. And of course, across the top, you have all of these at a glance, the different alerts that you're receiving and that are still active: hardware alerts, disk alerts, availability alerts, performance alerts, available patches, and general alerts. And of course, just like I showed you on the previous page, you have all the same options for both remoting into the device and managing the device itself. Now, I had touched briefly on ticketing. So I showed you how you can create a ticket if you were, say, the end user, but we can also create a ticket right on our own. So I'll go ahead and I'll go into the tickets page. And as you see, we do have a number of tickets open. I'll go over those in a minute and what all we're able to see. But I want to go ahead and create a new ticket so we can kind of look at the elements that we have available to us on this page. So first of all, you're going to want to choose a site. For example, we can choose the Atera CS site that we just created, and it'll pull up the user list. That shouldn't take more than a few seconds, ideally. If it takes any longer, I might have to switch sites just to be able to show this. There we go. So we can go ahead and we can choose any one of our users here. Let's see, I think I'll just take the top one. We can give the ticket our title, which will be reset password. It's assigned to myself, the technician. The priority, which is going to be associated with your SLA and the type of impact that it has, everything from low to critical, as well as the actual impact, everything from no impact all the way down to crisis. You can choose if it's an incident, problem, request, or a change. You can choose to tie it to a product family. And of course, very simply write the description here. Please reset password. You can also choose to attach any files if necessary. And you can schedule a ticket so that you can set the frequency with which you're seeing the ticket. So if you want to see it one time, or if you want to see it daily, weekly, monthly, you have the choice and you can make it yours. And of course, we have a register ticket creation time. This can be turned on or off as well. But let's say we're all done. This is the ticket that we want to open. We're going to go ahead and add it. And now we can see that this most recent reset your password request has been opened. Just to really quickly review the elements on this page here, you can see the title of the ticket, which site it's related to, and when it was created. If, again, there's a service level agreement tied to the site, you'll be able to see it reflected there, and we'll go over that a little bit deeper in a moment. Who the assigned technician is, and this can be changed. What the priority is, of course, this can be changed from here as well. The activity status, whether it's read, unread, awaiting request or response, or awaiting technician response. And you can also choose to affect the status from here as well. We want to go in and also just take a deeper look at what a ticket looks like that has been opened. So here you see the ticket which has been opened, you see the original request as well as when it was and who opened the ticket. On the right-hand side here, you can get requester info. If there's an SLA associated with it, you'll get information about that here as well. If it's connected to a device which is online and has an agent on it, you'll be able to connect to the device using the remote options directly from here if required and is needed because of the ticket content. You can schedule a new calendar event to remind you of the ticket. If the user has opened up any previous tickets, you'll be able to see a brief summary of that right here. And of course, changing the ticket properties. So from here, you can have the ticket be resolved or closed or set a custom status if you so desire, change the priority, change the impact, change the type, all the things that we had seen earlier on. A couple other things that I really want to bring to your attention. First of all, as you notice, this here in pink says send reply. That means whatever you type into here and click send is going to send to the person who opened the ticket. But of course, that doesn't always fit. And sometimes we need to pass things between departments or between users. So we can, of course, create an internal note. And this can also be changed, the default of it, which I'll go over very briefly. We have additional actions like merging the ticket with another ticket, deleting a ticket, starting a chat with the end user, and another option place to add a new calendar event or manual time entries, as well as here, like you can see. And another thing that I'd like to draw your attention to that we're very excited about is our AI system that's tagging tickets. So if it recognizes specific events or content within the message, it can automatically tag it and can even be assigned automatically to the relevant technician after it's been recognized. So that's it. Once I save a note, if I just say it is done, and I want to do an internal note, I'll click save note. And then you can see the entire conversation down here at the bottom. So of course, this was opening a ticket directly through the platform itself. I've also gone over how to open a ticket directly if you were the end user. And of course, they can send you an email too, and we'll go over the settings a little bit later to make sure that you know how to do that. One other thing that we had mentioned was the service level agreements. So I want to talk about that for a second because I think it's really important if this is something that's relevant to you and your team, that you know that these can be set, and that way you can stay within the time constraints that you've set for yourselves. So I'll just click on the admin section right here on the bottom left, and I'm going to go into service level agreements, SLAs. Now what you see here is that we actually have a default SLA set up, which is what we're applying to the majority of our customers. You can, of course, manually add your own service level agreement and create it to be exactly how you'd like. But let's take a look at the default one because it's already built and easy to understand. Of course, here we have the title, default SLA. If we wanted to write a description or any notes, those are available here as well as information about when it was created or modified. And here we decide the impact, whether it's from no impact to crisis, like we had mentioned earlier, and then setting the SLA, which is your first response time and your closed ticket time for each of the different levels. As you can see, we currently have it attached to Atera HQ and Atera USA. And actually what we're going to want to do, as I showed you a moment ago, under tickets, we had no SLA associated to this ticket that we recently opened up. So I'm going to go back into my site, into Atera CS, which we built together, choose an SLA by clicking on this. We're going to use the default one, which should come as no surprise. Click apply. And now the second I go back to the ticket, if there was an impact, which should have been, sorry, I chose no impact. That was my mistake. Click update. Now, when I go back into tickets, you can see this is my SLA in order to get back to this ticket. Now, other things that I had mentioned that I said I would come back to, I'm going back into the admin screen. I'm going into settings, and I want to look under the ticket settings. So one thing that you should note here is that a registered tickets creation time is on automatically. This is something that can be turned on or off. You have different options of what to do when a ticket is accessed. So whether the timer automatically starts, or if you turn the timer off, or can leave it on a manual mode, or the ticket timer could be hidden altogether. If a ticket is closed, you have the option, for example, that a ticket cannot be reopened. And again, the option to hide the timer. The auto tagging, which is the feature that I showed you. Of course, there are automatic tags, and there are also tags that you can add on your own, but this feature does need to be turned on. And the list of tags that you can add on your own is, of course, based on things that we are aware of, and that list is going to continue to grow. You can also enable ticket rounding, so it can measure by the quarter hour, half hour, or hour. Here's where we can affect the default response type, whether it be public or internal. And you can, of course, change the ticket sequence ID. I also mentioned that your end users can start a chat with the agent on the other end. So that right here also is just a check that needs to be turned on if you want the ability to enable the chat with customers. And a little separate from the ticketing, but this is the section where you would go to set AnyDesk, for example, as the default remote access platform that you like to use over Splashtop, for example, or again, TeamViewer if you came with licenses in hand. Additionally, again, sticking with the ticket theme, I'm going to go back under the admin tab and into email settings. And from here is where you're able to set the email address in which you're going to want to be receiving support emails to, so that it'll open up within the platform. You can choose the reply from name. You can add additional support addresses if it's included with your license. You can create a new user in case an email comes in from an unrecognized user, and it can be tied directly to the site. And you can, of course, also automatically send emails. You can choose templates from which to send an email to. We could take a look at the templates a little bit later on. And if it's relevant, you can also customize the SMTP settings as need be. And the last thing that I'd like to look at in the ticketing section is going to be the ticket automation rules. So 1 second here. It's right here up at the top. Again, I'm back under the admin tab. The ticket automation rules are right here. Let's see. So at the moment, this one is set to not active. But in general, the rule was supposed to be that if the ticket property included a specific department and the operator equals management, in that case, it will set a field value to a specific technician, which will be Aaron Graff, which is me. And of course, if you want to add additional rules, you can do that here. You can choose all sorts of different properties with which to choose from. And you can go ahead and add whatever rules are relevant to you. Now, really quickly, a little bit still on the line of ticketing is reports. So one of the reports that we would like to look at, again, here I am under the reports tab on the left-hand side, is the top load report. So this is for tickets with time entries. So I can go ahead and run a report. And here I see a total of 12 tickets, the total duration, and the average ticket duration, and the different sites, the number of tickets, the type of support they receive, all this wonderful information here as well. Another report that I'd like to draw your attention to at this time is the service level agreement. So here I can go back under the reports tab, click on the service level agreement, run a report here on all sites. Same thing, we get information on the same 12 tickets, the ones that were responded to, the number that were closed, whether or not they were responded within the SLA, and if they were closed within the SLA, tickets that were within the SLA, those that breached the SLA. Lots of great information directly from this report here. And of course, from all reports, you can export them via either Excel or PDF, so you can have them available to you at ease. Let's see. 2 other reports I'd like to show you real quick is one, the technician report. Technician comparison report, which will show you a breakdown of the different technicians that you have, the tickets that they've received, and all the statistics that are related to those tickets. Again, completely exportable. Pardon my mouse. And the last load that I'm going to look at, the last report, sorry, that I'm going to look at before hopping into the first Q&A section is the satisfied users report. Because of course, we have no dissatisfied users. Of course not, we're perfect. So here I hop into the satisfied users report, and here you can actually get information about the user feedback that they might have given you. We had one ticket which was rated, it got a 5 out of 5 rating. Yeah, all this information is available to you essentially at a click. So with that being said, I'll be very happy to open it up to a Q&A section. This will be the first of 2 Q&A sections, and I will also ask that you put all of your questions into the Q&A section and not into the chat. And both Jan and I will be happy to take them. And I'll give you guys a minute to type in any questions that you might have. And if you don't have any questions, I will be happy to move back on to the next section. So Craig asks if the ticketing portion is included with all products. And yes, Craig, it is. With all products, the ticketing is included. So it's an all-in-one RMM and ticketing system, all included. Should be able to handle all of your needs ideally. It's a great question. A different Craig asks, what are the differences between the MSP and the IT versions of Atera? So that's a little bit deeper of a question. In general, I'd ask that you reach out to your dedicated success manager if you're already familiar with who they are. And if not, it's success@atera.com. But the general line is that this is really geared towards IT departments and is made to work in a manner in which they are accustomed to, that fits their needs better. And of course, there are some changes that are relevant to the IT departments, but we'll be covering pretty much everything throughout the remainder of the webinar. So if there's any other questions or something that's unclear, again, success@atera.com, and we'll always be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have. All right. And as I'm not seeing any additional questions at this moment, I think I'm going to move on. Sorry, we did have one more question, which is, will there be a replay of this? And yes, there will. This will be uploaded and available on demand. So if you have to hop off, of course, the rest of it will be available, but stick around in case any other questions might arise in the meantime. All right. So I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into the RMM portion of it, the monitoring portion. So I'm going to go back into devices, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look right into one of my devices, the same one that we've been using as an example. And the more astute of you might have noticed that I skipped over this profile section. This is an incredibly important section and offers you a great deal of capabilities, including your threshold profiles and your IT automation profiles. So the first thing that I want to jump into is threshold profiles. Of course, this is to alert you of issues that might arise that we're going to constantly monitor. I'm going to take a look at the default profile that we already have set up, just so that you can take a look and see what's already attached to this device. So anything that you see here in red is a critical warning, is a critical alert, sorry, and everything that is in yellow is a warning. You can see, for example, we've set the thresholds incredibly low, like create a critical alert for memory usage exceeding 1% for a period of 9 minutes. That's obviously very easy to achieve, and we wanted to be able to show alerts, but this is of course editable and is not what is set by actual default. Under here, you can change the percentage of the threshold which you'd like to adjust. You can adjust the time period in which it fires the alert. And you can also run what are called self-healing scripts, and you can attach it directly to the profile. So for example, if I wanted to set a self-healing script for memory usage, I go ahead and click on the to select a script. You can, of course, create your own script if that's something that you are prone to do. Create a description, you can give it a file name, and you can choose from these 3 different file types, .bat, .ps1, and .sh. And all the details that you need, as well as building your own script. Or you can also choose directly from our shared script library. So all of these have been uploaded and checked by Atera and are available to use. I, for example, am looking for one on memory usage, so I can go ahead and look for memory. I could take disk memory capacity status, for example, so it'll identify the disk memory status. I can clone this to my list of scripts that I have, and then I could use this one if I so desired. I think for me, I'm actually going to use the delete temporary files for all users. I can go ahead and select this script. You can see that it's now been attached here. Once I go ahead and click add, you'll see create a critical alert and run delete temporary files for all users once the memory exceeds 1% for a period of 9 minutes. That is a threshold profile that already exists and is currently connected to this device. But we can also go under admin and we can go and set a brand new threshold if we wanted to create a new threshold profile. So if I wanted, I can go ahead and click add profile. We'll give the name of the profile server 3, because I already see server and server 2 there. And here you see we have a blank slate. And you can choose if we're going to be monitoring a personal computer, Mac, laptop, or a server, which of course comes with a number of different options. And including the profile we just looked at, you can also always add a new item to it. So you can choose from the preset thresholds that we already have, or you can set a custom one. So for example, if you wanted, we could choose disk alerts from Smart, for example. If it gives us an alert, then it'll be warning. You can go ahead and click add. And then you'll see that create warning for disk alerts from Smart has now been added to this server. So that's just something for you to be aware of. Of course, these are also adjustable from within here, and you can save when you are done. I'm going to delete as we've already got a few of these profiles created. All right, I'm going back into that same device, into the notebook that we've been looking at. And now I want to discuss our IT automation profiles. So from here, you can see we can just attach new and existing profiles that we already have. Or if I'd like to take a look at the different profiles that are already attached to this one, for example, the patching notebooks, here you can see that it opens up the automation page, and this is filled with tons of great and useful information. You have 3 different columns. You have the patch management column, you have software management, and you have disk management, maintenance, and scripts. One thing that you might note is over here on the maintenance section, you have a reboot option available to you. You might want to create separate automations just for the reboot alone, right? So you would undo all this and do a whole automation just for this. You have unlimited automations that you're able to build. Here you can see with regard to Windows local updates, you can disable them or enable them. You can install Mac patch updates. You can reboot if needed. Like I said, you might want to consider doing separate automations specifically for the reboot. You can also exclude specific patches. If there's a KB out there that you don't want included, you can choose to have this excluded from the patching. And here will be your third-party section. So you have software management, which will allow you to, again, exclude any software patches if it's something specifically for Windows or Mac devices, that there's a software patch that you don't want to have included, that can be here as well. And you can also install software bundles. So here, if we want to choose one that we've already built, we have one called name one. So you can see that it will automatically install these three software items, and it'll be done. If we were to select it, it would be done on Friday and on Wednesdays. Of course, it'll only do it once if that's what you have set up, but you can also choose to run the profile on newly installed agents. So you can build a profile that's specifically meant to be run on a newly installed agent that's just going to install a software bundle that you choose. I think from here, we can also create a new bundle. Let's take a look at a Windows bundle. Let's call it new, oops, if I could only type, new employee. And then we can start adding software. So let's say we want our new employees to have the VLC media player. We can add that software. We want them to have Teams, for example. So here we have Microsoft Teams. And then we can save this, and of course, we'll have the new employee bundle. All right. So I think that is pretty much it under the devices. We see that this one has been applied specifically to this device. We know that these are the IT automation profiles that are set to run. Sorry, one more thing that I wanted to mention, and I kind of touched on it a moment ago, is of course you can choose when to schedule the automation for, so you can run it. This one is set to run weekly on Fridays at 7 p.m. and again on Wednesdays at 1 a.m. or you can choose to run the profile now if you so desire. Let's see, other than that, I'll draw your attention over here to the alerts tab. From here, you can see any alerts that are currently on display and available from the devices that you're monitoring. So just a quick overview, you can see we're getting a disk temperature on the Atera USA site on this specific device, the notebook that we've been looking at. The alert popped up 4 hours ago. The severity is critical. The category is disk. We can automatically create a ticket right here or assign a new ticket to a new agent. The status of the alert, and of course, all the same management options that you've seen on the previous pages, as well as additional details on the alert itself, maybe to remind you of whatever threshold profile you had set up. And under the alerts page, we also have some things that we can affect. Again, now I've gone back into the admin under monitoring alerts. You can see that we'll have alerts automatically being sent to Jan as well as myself, Aaron, and choose when to send them, whether it be on warning, critical, or resolved. We can, of course, set our office hours so we're not being disturbed when we're supposed to be away. There are sound alerts that can be included as well. Critical ones, for example. And another one.
Houston, we have a problem.
You can play with that a little bit yourselves, of course. As well as automated ticket creation. So once a threshold has been breached, it'll automatically create a ticket and assign it to the relevant site. So that's something that you can set up as well. Let's see. Before I move on to reports, I also wanted to just go back and talk about different ways of monitoring. So we saw from this dropdown, you could of course create a new ticket, and we had discussed the agent installer. You can also monitor SNMP devices. This is of course going to be for monitoring the OID and availability. You can have TCP, HTTP, which is for a website, and generic, which is just for monitoring availability. Let's see. Now I'll hop in and dive a little bit deeper into the reports. So first of all, I want to show you the auditor report. Basically, this will give you a report on the hardware and software inventory. Let me just choose our site here that has devices. You can, of course, choose to exclude retired devices. Here you can get information on what type of devices are associated with this site. We have the workstation. You can get information about Mac distribution, workstation distribution, or server distribution, the antivirus that's available on it, as well as just an overview of the device information. This, of course, just like all the other reports, is exportable, Excel or PDF. Next, going back to the report page again, we have the patch and automation feedback report that I want to draw your attention to as well. So here you can get an overview of patch automation and IT automation activity. So here you can see when the device was offline, it was failing to successfully run the patch that we tried to install on this device. And I will also show you the software inventory, which is very similar to what I had pulled up on the original page, where you could see the different types of software And as you can see on the right-hand side, if you have the option, you can uninstall it from right here as well, directly from this reports page. This can come as an Excel, detailed Excel, or PDF. All right. One other thing that I wanted to discuss, which I think is super relevant to IT departments, is our network discovery. So network discovery is super simple. First, you only have to have one agent installed on the network, and then you'll be able to discover the entire network and subnetworks. You can see that we're currently having it operational on our Atera USA site. So I'll go ahead and click in here. You can see that we're monitoring and searching for workstations and servers, and gives you an overview of the workstations and servers that are available, MAC address, manufacturer, and other details. You have SNMP devices, unknown devices, and of course, storage devices as well. Up here, we have reporting for network discovery specifically. And relatively recently added is the new security section. So here you're able to monitor devices, any open ports that you have, as well as any potential CVEs. So it'll give all workstations and servers, and you just select and install the agent, and it will easily be monitored. So beyond that, I had also mentioned earlier on in the conversation that we have our features board. Again, we really take feedback from our community seriously, and a lot of the changes that you've seen are due to community outreach and people telling us what they'd like to see improved. So this is available right here underneath the profile. You can go ahead and submit your own ideas, as well as upvote other ideas that you've seen on that have been posted by other users. And of course, you also have the ability to contact our support. You can either start a live chat with them or visit our help center, which includes a pretty sizable knowledge base. That, sorry, pretty much concludes my portion on the platform itself. Just will quickly say we have additional webinars available that you can see at atera.com/webinars, both on demand and live. We do much deeper drills down into, we have an entire webinar for network discovery, for example, as well as patching. We have deep dives into RMM and ticketing, as well as others. And we also recently started doing an automations workshop. So if you want to join us and build your first automation and hopefully save you some time, effort, energy, and ultimately money, that might be something that might be worth attending. Additional resources that we have include our knowledge base, which I showed you how to access easily from the platform, but it's also on atera.com. Our blog, which is also full of great content that might help you improve the way that you handle your workflow. We have our Facebook community, which is actually very active with end users and is also monitored by us, and where we can contribute, we most certainly do. And of course, the live chat, which is currently available 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, and email support, which is available 24/7. That's just support@atera.com, and we are always available to assist one way or another. And beyond that, I cannot thank you enough for joining us on today's walkthrough webinar of the IT department. And I will open it back up to questions and answers. So Tristan asks if we can supervise network equipment, printers. Yes, that'll just be the, and Jan, step in if I misspeak, but that'll be with the SNMP. So once you have
yes, it is possible. That's correct.
Once you have an agent installed on the network, then you can easily monitor network equipment. Let's see. Tristan also asked, can we receive SMS alerts for blocking user tickets, a server restart, a stop service, etc.? At the moment, I don't believe we have SMS.
Well, if I may answer this one, Aaron, there is a knowledge base article which describes how you can do that. It's not directly in Atera, but there is possibility to do it. So please go to our knowledge base, enter SMS in the search bar, and you will find the article.
Okay, and then thank you, Jan. Tristan also asks if we can install the language of our choice. So currently the platform is supported in English, French, and German.
One more thing to say about this, we do have this customer portal, and the customer portal is available in much more languages.
This is true. And in the customer portal, you can also upload your own knowledge base of information to be able to share with your end users. You see a repeat of items, you can point them to your own internal articles as well. Is there any asset management, Vincent asks, to keep track of hardware and inventory? So you've kind of seen per device, you're able to see some of the hardware information, as well as through some of the reports that I've shown, but I'm not sure if it's going to cover exactly all the details that you are looking to have. You'll have to go and check out what I've shown you under the different reports and see if that gives you the information that you're looking for specifically. See, we have another question. Is a domain admin account needed to push Atera across the network? Jan?
Let me see. Yeah, I was looking at the other one. Is a domain admin account needed to push Atera across the network? Yes. You need one.
Okay. Let's see, the next question from Allison. When comparing prices on the Atera website, what does API or 600 RPM mean? So, I mean, API is basically things that you can integrate into the platform, and with the RPM, it's requests per minute. So the larger licenses tend to get more requests per minute.
Well, the API is only used when you want to have an integration with other software, with homemade software, for example.
Yep.
So if you don't have any other software which you like to synchronize with, then you don't need the API.
All right. Craig asks, is there a way to configure a new computer, new OS and software, etc.? I believe that was mostly what I had gone over during the RMM portion, unless I'm mistaken. Feel free to correct me, either Jan or Craig, but yes, is the short answer. We've seen it done here today and it's been demonstrated. Is it possible to give users access to their office computer from home? Yes, Tristan, it is possible. It's an additional $5 per month per license at this time. And then you can just essentially provide them with the ability to remote into their office computer. It's called work from home, is the name of the feature. Let's see. Also under account, what does support addresses specifically mean? So support addresses basically mean if you have one or multiple ways of your users reaching out to you, if you have support@yourcompany.com and IT support@yourcompany.com, they can both be monitored directly from the platform. Again, the higher licenses have the ability to add additional support addresses. And the last question, oh, no, sorry, not the last question. Would the domain admin account always need to be logged in? I think that's related to the original question about if a domain admin account is needed to push Atera across the network.
No, the answer is no. You only needed to install the agent, but it doesn't have to be always be logged in.
And Jose asks, what happens if you go over the 700 RPM request per minute?
Good question. We didn't have it up to now. I'm not sure. Please send the question to success@atera.com, then we can give you an adequate answer.
Correct. All right, and Craig asks, we have used ZenWorks to push a standard profile to a group of computers at the same time, standard configuration. I don't believe that's a question. So I apologize, Craig, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I have one other question here in the meantime. what is the price to monitor 200 computers? Tristan, that's a phenomenal question. One of the things that I didn't touch on is one of the main advantages of Atera is that you are unlimited in terms of the number of endpoints that you can monitor. You pay per technician, and then you can attach as many endpoints to that technician as that person can handle, essentially. Craig was clarifying his previous question, I see. Let's see, I'm just going to try and track and understand what that is. That was about the new computer and a new OS and software. I don't, Jan, do you want to try and field that one? I'm going to answer the last question in the meantime, if you can try and understand if there's a question there that I didn't answer correctly. The last question that we currently have in the chat in the meantime is, who can I contact about pricing? We are extremely clear about our pricing. There are no hidden fees. Everything is listed on atera.com/pricing, or just go to atera.com and click on the pricing page, and you'll be able to see the different licenses that we have available and what all they include. And of course, if you have additional questions, as I've mentioned before, we are here, success@atera.com, and more than happy to try and answer any additional questions that you might have. All right. Jan?
Yep.
The last question, I think this is still Craig following up here. They'd like to configure a set of 10 computers, for example, with a golden image. Can Atera push a golden image?
Well, what Atera can do is you can create a so-called IT automation profile. And when, I think it's not completely what you're looking after, but when you have installed an agent on a device, then that IT automation profile will run. And in that profile, you can have software selected, which will be installed.
Which was also something that I had run through in the course of this demonstration. So if you happen to miss it, like I said, this will be available for an on-demand viewing pretty soon, and you'll be able to go back and see it. Or again, you can always reach out to success@atera.com and we can demo it for you if need be. All right. And with that, I have no, sorry. Can I repeat the email to send my questions one more time? Yes, it's success, that's SUCCESS @atera.com. I thank you all for your time. I thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to join me and to walk through the IT department webinar with me. It's truly been a pleasure. And if there are any other questions, really feel free to reach out to us at any point, and I will wish you all an excellent rest of your day.